Hi, Tim Two Wheels here. Today's maintenance video is in response to several viewer requests I've received of just how do you remove the side panels, the seat, the lower front fairing, and the tank. Many of my videos have started when I'm working on the bike and I'll say, okay, I've already removed the tank or the fairings or whatever the case may be to save time. So several viewers have requested that I make a video showing just how to remove those items to get started in doing some of the maintenance items on the bike. So here's that video. So to get started, the first thing we're going to do is remove the side panels, the rear side panels here, and it just takes two 8mm nuts or bolts here and here. Then the next thing to do is we'll take the seat off. I'll show you how that comes off. Then we'll take the lower fairing assembly off, and that is done by an 8mm bolt here, here, and there's one up inside that you'll have to come off, and a Phillips screw that comes off here. Then two bolts here, and we're able to remove the tank. So we'll start by again removing these two bolts here. And I just use a deep well socket. I like to use it with a 3-inch extension, and that gives me plenty of clearance for my hand to get in here and turn without hitting the side panel. So it's not very long. We'll take them out and we'll put them aside here on our table. Do the same thing here. And then there is a rubber grommet underneath here. So just pull outward and you'll see it just slips right out from under the seat. And that's what it looks like. So the attachment points are here, here, and then the rubber grommet, which goes in right there. And set this aside. And now we'll do the same thing to the other side. Now, using a 10mm socket, I'm going to remove the bolt from this side and the other side of the seat. And that's all that holds the seat on, is just these two bolts. Remove that, and you may or may not have a washer in there. If you do, make sure you get that out. This seat has been worn quite a bit. And to remove the seat, just simply lift up on the rear and then pull it kind of down this way, because there's a couple of latch hook points up front. So just slide it down and the seat comes right off. So once the side panels are removed and the seat is removed, you do need to remove the lower front fairing before you can actually take the tank off, because the lower front fairings are bolted to the tank, and that has to come off first. So the first thing that I do is this Phillips head screw that's right up here on either side. You'll want to take just a screwdriver and remove that. Now this actually ties together the upper fairing, where the headlight is, with the lower fairing, and so you want to get that loose. Now that we have this screw out in the top, we can go ahead and remove the bolts that hold the lower fairing on. So to start with the other one, they're 8mm. So again, just using the same socket that we used to remove the side panels. Take that out. Now I have the SW Motec crash bars, but one thing I like about the SW Motec crash bars is they don't interfere with you being able to remove the fairings. And lastly, there is a bolt that comes in from this angle up here, and I'll show you a picture here, what that looks like, and we want to remove that. So now our fairing is completely loose. I like to pull it out of the rubber grommets, and then I like, with the crash bars on, you have to be a little particular about how you remove it. If you don't have crash bars, it just comes straight off. But I like, with the SW Motec crash bars, I angle it out, angle it back, and bring it straight out just like that. And that's all there is to it. Okay, over on the left-hand side of the bike now, we're removing the same screws to remove the lower fairing. The one difference on this side is that your radiator is over here. So you'll have this plastic radiator guard that's in place. So I'm removing the last screw or bolt out of there. And we remove the fairing the same way by pulling up and angling back. And you'll notice that you have this piece that fits into these rubber grommets over on the radiator mount. So you just want to take that out and make sure you put that back in. That's really the only difference between the two sides. All right, next we're going to take the tank off. Okay, on the left side of the tank is your fuel switch, and right now I have it in the off position, but you'll see there's the main supply hose here. You'll want to loosen that clamp and slide it down. Make sure your tank is off when you do this so you don't want fuel to spill everywhere. There's also a vent line that comes in back under here that comes in this direction to go into the fuel valve, the fuel switch. You also want to remove that as well. So in mine, there's those two lines, the main feed line that goes down and the one that comes in from the rear. So with the valve switched off, we want to loosen the clamp. There's just a little wire spring clamp. Just squeeze that together. You might even be able to do it with your fingers. Just use a pair of needle nose pliers and just work that down on the hose. Bring it down, doesn't have to come all the way off. Then we can take a pair of pliers, or again using your fingers, and just pull that hose off. Now you might get a little bit of fuel spill. It won't be much, just a little bit. And then the same thing on the hose that's coming off the back, the vent hose. There. Now both of those are disconnected now. We move up top here, and this is the vent line that comes off of this little barb here on the back of the tank. I've seen some models that have two. Mine happens to have just one. This is not the stock hose. This is actually a piece of fuel line that I put on here because when I bought this bike, the vent tube was actually missing. So loosening these two 10mm bolts. So just to reiterate, 8mm and 10mm socket is what you need, and a Phillips screwdriver to do all of this. So removing these two, I have them out. And now the fuel tank will just lift right up out of these grommets and you can remove it. All right, now that we have the fuel hoses, the fuel lines, and the vent line on the lower hand side removed, we have the two 10mm bolts removed. The last part is to remove the actual fuel tank. Now, this is easier with the less fuel you have in here. This can get quite heavy. Unfortunately, I have a full tank of fuel in here right now. But regardless, the first thing you do is you lift up on the rear end here, now that those bolts are loose, and you want to kind of pick up in this motion because there's two rubber mounts that the fuel tank sets on the frame. So I grab it up front here, be careful not to pinch your fingers, and just lift back. And that's all there is to it. So that shows you how to remove the lower rear side panels, the seat, the lower fairings, and as well as the fuel tank removal. So these are pretty common maintenance items. Anytime you want to work on the bike and you need to get in here, that's what you have to do to get those items off the bike. I did not remove the upper front fairing because I have yet to encounter a job where you have to remove that. I may do a video later showing how to remove that, but I've done a lot of stuff to my bike and I've never had to remove these yet. So I hope this helps you see just how easy it is to remove these items, to get in and do common maintenance to your bike. To put them back on, it's just the reverse. Use your head, just put things back, remember which bolts came out of which hole, and put it all back together the same way. So as always, thank you for watching. This is Tim Two Wheels, and that's how I do it.